Welcome to Sun Moon Saga. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's begin. Rain lashed against the ancient walls of Thornhill Manor. Inside, Eleanor Vance, a private investigator with a killer instinct and a phone perpetually buzzing, scrolled through a text message on her smartphone. Missing millionaire, Thornhill Manor, come quickly. Eleanor wasn't one to ignore an urgent message, especially one involving a fortune heir and a potential disappearance. The grand library, with its flickering firelight and unsettling silence, felt less like a scholarly haven and more like the set of a creepy mystery show. She adjusted her leather jacket, a shiver of excitement chasing away the chill in the air. The case of the missing millionaire was about to go live. It seemed Charles Blackwood, the heir to a vast fortune built by his family's company, had vanished without a trace. No struggle, no forced entry, no ransom note. It was as if Charles had simply disappeared into thin air. Eleanor met with Alistair, the family lawyer, whose face looked as pale as a ghost under the firelight. He explained that Charles, a bright young man on the cusp of inheriting a fortune, had vanished 3 days ago. The police were a dead end, and the Blackwood family, particularly Charles's father, seemed more concerned about the potential scandal impacting their company's stock price than finding their son. Alistair handed Eleanor a worn leather diary. This belonged to Charles. Maybe it'll offer some clues. Eleanor skimmed the pages, filled with Charles's neat handwriting and detailed sketches. A knot of unease tightened in her stomach as she read. Charles wasn't exactly thrilled with his family's company. He suspected they were cutting corners and harming the environment with their recent business deals. The diary even mentioned a clandestine meeting with a mysterious source who had incriminating evidence against the company. The final entry, dated 3 days prior, sent a shiver down her spine. Meeting tonight. Must expose the truth. Feeling scared. This wasn't just a simple missing person case. It reeked of something far more sinister. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Eleanor began her investigation. She explored Thornhill Manor, a place steeped in history and secrets. The grand halls, with their faded tapestries and portraits of stern ancestors, seemed to whisper of a bygone era. Behind a heavy tapestry in Charles's study, she discovered a hidden passage leading to a dusty, forgotten room. Here, a locked cabinet held shocking evidence, stacks of financial documents and newspaper clippings detailing environmental disasters linked to Blackwood Industries' recent acquisitions. Armed with this information, Eleanor confronted Mr. Blackwood. His normally stoic demeanor crumbled, his face reddening with anger. He dismissed the documents as forgeries and Charles's concerns as youthful folly. However, the tremor in his voice betrayed his facade. Next, Eleanor discreetly interviewed the staff of Thornhill Manor. The wise old housekeeper, Mrs. Higgins, confided in hushed tones that she'd overheard a heated argument between Charles and his dad the night before he vanished. Charles accused his father of jeopardizing the environment for short-term profits. Mrs. Higgins also mentioned seeing a strange car leaving the manor on the night Charles disappeared. Following this lead, Eleanor tracked down the car, leading her to a shady nightclub frequented by individuals with questionable morals. There, she found a man who vaguely resembled the illustration in Charles's diary. After some careful questioning and a well-placed bribe, the man revealed that he was indeed supposed to meet with Charles on the night he vanished. But the meeting never took place. Instead, he witnessed a group of burly men in black suits forcefully taking someone away from the docks that night. Eleanor's heart pounded with a chilling certainty. Charles was alive, but in grave danger. She raced to the docks, a cold rain pelting her face. Just as she started to lose hope, a faint glow emanated from a nearby warehouse. With a deep breath, Eleanor inched closer to the warehouse, the metallic tang of salt water filling her nostrils. A sliver of moonlight peeked through the storm clouds, illuminating the weathered warehouse door. It was ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning her in. Gripping a heavy metal pipe she'd found lying near the docks, a makeshift weapon for a desperate situation, Eleanor pushed the door open further. The sound creaked ominously in the stillness of the night. Inside, the air hung thick with dust and the stench of dampness. Moonlight streamed through several broken windows, outlining the hulking shapes of crates and abandoned machinery. Suddenly, a muffled cry pierced the silence, sending a jolt of adrenaline through Eleanor. She crept further into the warehouse, her eyes adjusting to the gloom. In the distance, A lone figure slumped against a stack of crates, his form silhouetted against a shaft of moonlight. As she got closer, her heart sank. It was Charles, his face bruised and pale, his wrists bound with thick rope. Just then, a heavy boot crunched on gravel outside the warehouse. Eleanor dived behind a crate, her breath catching in her throat. A burly man with a thick scar across his cheek entered the warehouse, a cruel smile twisting his lips. He approached Charles, who, despite his condition, glared defiantly at him. "Who are you?" Charles rasped. The man chuckled coldly. "Doesn't matter. You know too much." As the man raised a fist to strike Charles, Eleanor knew she had no choice. With a surge of adrenaline, she leaped from her hiding place and swung the iron pipe with all her might, catching the man squarely on the shoulder. The blow sent him staggering back, a howl of pain escaping his lips. Charles, momentarily surprised, stared at Eleanor in disbelief. Seizing the opportunity, she rushed to him and with trembling fingers, started sawing at the ropes binding his wrists. The injured thug roared in fury and lunged at her. A desperate struggle ensued. Despite her age, Eleanor possessed a surprising amount of strength and agility. She dodged the man's clumsy attempts to grab her, using his bulk against him. The fight was chaotic, filled with grunts, thuds, and the clang of the iron rod on concrete. Suddenly, a loud bang resonated through the warehouse. The remaining window above them shattered, showering them with glass shards. A figure in a dark coat stood outside, a pistol glinting in the moonlight. The thug, startled, turned his gaze towards the newcomer. This was Eleanor's chance. With a final shove, she pushed Charles to the other side of the crate stack. In that split second, the figure outside fired. The bullet whizzed through the air, narrowly missing Charles and finding its mark on the thug's shoulder. The thug crumpled to the floor with a scream, clutching his wounded arm. Taking advantage of the momentary distraction, Eleanor tackled Charles, knocking them both to the ground as another shot rang out. They rolled behind the crates, the gunfire echoing around them. Eleanor's mind raced. Who was the mysterious shooter? Was it an accomplice, or someone else entirely? Just as she contemplated this, the figure spoke. "Stay down." The voice, gruff but strangely familiar, commanded. Eleanor peeked over the crate cautiously. The figure emerged from the shadows, revealing Alistair, the solicitor, his face grim and his suit rumpled and muddied from his hurried journey. "Thank God I made it in time," he muttered, his voice laced with relief. "I overheard Lord Blackwood talking about silencing Charles. I knew I had to act." Alistair helped Charles to his feet, then turned to Eleanor. "You did well, Miss Vance." Eleanor, still shaken from the ordeal, helped Charles lean against a crate. The raw adrenaline slowly drained from her, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness. However, a flicker of triumph ignited within her. They had found Charles, and she was determined to see this investigation through. The night that followed was a blur of activity. Alistair contacted the police, who swarmed the warehouse and apprehended the injured thug. Charles, after a quick medical examination, recounted his ordeal. He had been lured to the docks on the pretext of his anonymous source, only to be ambushed by the thugs. They had taken him to the warehouse, intending to silence him permanently. Alistair, his initial loyalty to Lord Blackwood shattered, confirmed Charles's claims. He revealed recordings of phone conversations where Lord Blackwood had orchestrated Charles's disappearance. The evidence was damning. The following days were a whirlwind. News of Lord Blackwood's arrest and Charles's harrowing rescue sent shockwaves through the business world. Blackwood Industries' stock plummeted as the truth about their environmentally destructive practices came to light. Charles, hailed as a hero who exposed corporate greed, became a symbol for environmental activism. However, Eleanor's work wasn't quite finished. The question of the mysterious shooter lingered. Alistair, under intense police questioning, admitted he had indeed followed Lord Blackwood on a hunch, fearing the worst. He saw Charles being taken away and impulsively fired a warning shot, hoping to scare off the thugs, but he swore he wasn't the one who incapacitated the thug. This left a nagging doubt in Eleanor's mind. Who was the other shooter? Was it someone connected to Charles's anonymous source? Or was there another player in this intricate web of deceit? Driven by this lingering question, Eleanor delved deeper into Charles's journal. She meticulously reviewed the entries related to his concerns about the environment, searching for any overlooked clues. Her sharp eyes caught a recurring symbol, a stylized bird in flight sketched in the margins of several pages. This symbol wasn't mentioned anywhere else, suggesting it held some significance. With renewed purpose, Eleanor contacted a network of environmental activists she'd worked with on past cases. They recognized the symbol instantly as the emblem of a small, radical environmental group known for their aggressive tactics. The Peregrine Falcons. Could one of them have been Charles's source, and maybe even the mysterious shooter? Following this lead, Eleanor tracked down Maya Green, the fiery and fiercely independent leader of the Peregrine Falcons. Their meeting took place in a hidden, makeshift office beneath a bustling organic market. Maya, a woman whose troubled past fueled her passion for environmental protection, confirmed she had been in contact with Charles. "He was a good man, Miss Vance," Maya said, her voice laced with a quiet intensity. "He reached out, concerned about Blackwood Industries' practices. We provided him with evidence and arranged the meeting at the docks. However, Maya vehemently denied any involvement in Charles's abduction or the shooting. "We may be radical, Miss Vance," she stated, her eyes blazing with conviction, "but we don't resort to violence. We believe in exposing corruption, not silencing voices." Eleanor believed Maya. The woman's sincerity shone through her fierce exterior. Yet, the question of the shooter remained unanswered. Frustrated yet determined, Eleanor decided to revisit the warehouse scene. She meticulously examined the area where the shooting took place, searching for any overlooked detail. Her keen eye caught a glint of metal half buried in the dirt. It was a small silver badge, tarnished and slightly warped. Upon closer inspection, a wave of realization washed over her. Engraved on the badge was the symbol of a private security firm known to be employed by wealthy individuals for discreet matters. A cold realization dawned on Eleanor. Eleanor rushed back to Thornhill Manor. She confronted Alistair, presenting him with the badge. Alistair's face turned ashen. He confessed that, desperate to protect Charles, he had hired the security firm to follow him on the night of the meeting. It was one of their operatives who had shot the thug, not him. The revelation left a bitter taste in Eleanor's mouth. While Alistair's intentions were good, his actions highlighted the complexities of the case. It wasn't just about corporate greed and environmental concerns. It was about fear, desperation, and the lengths people would go to protect their interests. In the aftermath, Charles, with the support of public opinion and the evidence gathered by Eleanor, successfully took control of Blackwood Industries. He vowed to clean up the company's environmental record and prioritize sustainable practices. Maya Green and the Peregrine Falcons continued their activism, albeit with a renewed focus on working within the system alongside Charles. As for Eleanor, she returned to her office, a quiet sense of satisfaction settling in. The case of the missing millionaire had been a labyrinthine journey, filled with twists and turns. But ultimately, the truth had prevailed, exposing corruption and paving the way for a brighter future. She closed Charles's journal, the intricate sketches reminding her of the brave young man who dared to stand up for what he believed in. The case was closed, but the echoes of intrigue and the fight for justice lingered on, a testament to the tenacity of the human spirit and the power of truth. Did you enjoy this story? Comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.